2020 Royal Rumble proved to be an exciting and newsworthy, and for many cathartic event on the legs of two awesome moments. Drew McIntyre defiantly claymoring a dominant Brock Lesnar to his doom, and the return of WWE icon Edge. The latter had been speculated upon for some time, yet barely felt real to those who sensed it was coming, but we'll come back to that shortly. The idea of surprises in the Royal Rumble matches, however often they get spoiled by enterprising news outlets don't give us that look, are still the stuff fun Rumbles are made of. And throughout this millennium, the Rumbles have been filled to the brim with one physical cameo after another. Some forgettable, some charming, and some legendary. In this video, we're going to take a look back at the 10 best Royal Rumble surprise returns. No NXT cameos and no pre-announced comebacks, see Triple H in 2002, Rob Van Dam in 2006 are allowed here. It's only the ones that stunned you out of your ongoing nacho coma long enough to suitably mark the F out. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com, and these are the 10 best Royal Rumble surprise returns. Join us. Number 10, Booker T and Diesel in 2011. No matter how bloated your roster is, when you're booking a Royal Rumble to run 40 men deep, you may be spread a little thin by the time you get to Wrestler 37. Yoshi Tatsu, Tyler Rex, Mason Ryan, some dude named Husky Harris. Quantity wasn't an issue 9 years ago, but depth certainly was. So deploying a few ringers into the fray made sense. Enter recent main event Mafia members Booker T and Kevin Nash, the latter once more recostumed as Big Daddy Cool. All you need to see is the joyful look on Booker's face when he walks the aisle, his arms subconsciously shaking as though he was being slowly possessed. He hadn't been that happy since T-Mobile introduced the very concept of the Fave 5. Diesel's reemergence takes a respectable second to book here, but that Boston pop when they heard the Diesel truck start up was pretty wild. The warm reception for these two moments is probably what led to WWE overloading the following year's Rumble with too many surprises, so that's just one more thing people can blame on Big Sexy. Number 9, Bubba Ray Dudley in 2015. There were a few reasons why Bully Ray's entry into the ever-popular and globally celebrated 2015 match was special. First off, it occurred in Philadelphia, his old ECW stomping grounds, so seeing the man who used to antagonize the Bingo Hall faithful get a hero's welcome was delightful in itself. But there's a bigger reason why Bubba Ray's appearance was monumental. It was his first time ever in a Royal Rumble match. Yes, the man who worked for WWE for 6 years from 1999 to 2005 had never once entered the 30-man melee. He and Brother Devon were doomed to spend those Rumbles of yore in the undercard, usually in the tag team title match or, in 2000, breaking tables with the Hardy Boys. By the time Bubba donned the glasses and camo once more in 2015, he was a decade removed from leaving the company, spending close to the entirety of that decade in TNA, and won their world title twice. And this was all before his first Rumble match appearance at age 43. We're still waiting on Devon to get his chance. Testify. Number 8, Chris Jericho in 2013. This is one of those returns that you forget is a return. Usually when you think of Rumble returns, you think of something kooky, like the Boogeyman for some reason, or the Hurricane for some reason, or what have you. Jericho came and went as he pleased, firmly into the I'm going out for cigarettes phase of his WWE run, and returning occasionally to pick up some of his mail. What made Le Retourne de la Champion unique here is that it was hardly a cameo. After bowing out shortly after the 2012 SummerSlam, Jericho turned up unexpectedly at the 2013 Rumble, entering at number 2. With Dolph Ziggler, the man who sent him packing, standing across the ring, Jericho got to work, hanging in there for nearly 48 minutes, the second longest tenure that year behind only Ziggler himself. For a man who hadn't wrestled in over 5 months, Jericho put in one hell of a shift. Hopefully he got to enjoy a little bit of the bubbly for his sterling efforts. Number 7, all the women's returns in the 2018 Rumble. In 2018, the women finally got a Rumble of their own. Asuka won, Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss conveniently and uncharacteristically stood in place beside her afterwards so that even a dullard in the 112th row would go, "She's got a choice to make," and Ronda Rousey pointed at something in the vicinity of an oversized logo. Silly remarks aside, it was a fine Rumble match, and all in all, people were happy to see the women get this opportunity. In this case, stacking the Rumble with guest entries was necessary, since the main roster didn't exactly have 30 women to fill it out. The Riot Squad and Absolution was seemingly invented 2 months earlier for this purpose. So there were tons of cameos, including Trish Stratus, Lita, Beth Phoenix, Michelle McCool, and others. Since they never got a Rumble match in their day, Beth's canoodling with Carly aside, this allowed some truly talented women to get a Rumble match on their career resumes. Plus, it gave us Trish versus Mickey again, and you can never have enough of that. Number 6, Jimmy Snuka and Roddy Piper in 2008. Some of the entries in this video led to full-time jobs for the welcome interlopers, whether it was Booker as a part-timer, Jericho returning because he and Mum apparently made up for real this time, or whatever. This was a case where there was no serious comeback in the offing given the ages of the two men involved. And who cares, the moment was so surreal that nothing they did after was going to be as cool. Amid a ring full of icons and late Ruthless Aggression era regulars, the theme music of the Superfly hits, and suddenly, Snuka was back home in the garden, looking for somebody named Morocco to jump onto. Then, just as inexplicably, here comes Piper in the next spot, and Snuka froze. The old rivals had as good a brawl as two elder wrestlers could possibly have, but the sight of a ring full of stupefied wrestlers watching it play out completely justified the bizarre spectacle. The pair were brought back as part of a handicap match at the following year's WrestleMania, but that was never going to touch this quaint brilliance. Number 5, Bob Backlund in 2000. Hang on, we're not leaving Madison Square Garden just yet. As nice as Brooklyn's Barclays Center is, it just doesn't have the history and the character of MSG, the world's most famous arena. The old grow young again inside the hallowed halls, yes, even Snuka and Piper, and something in the air just rekindles long-lost magic. Take the year 2000. When New York feasted merrily on the glut of attitude, but didn't forget its history. The clock counted down as a scantily clad super heavyweight, a vampire, a flak-jacketed cop, and an ascending edge all jockeyed for position. At the horn, Hail to the Chief blares, briefly confusing the usually hip crowd. Then out comes Mr. Bob Backlund to the damnedest pop you've ever heard. He and New York have met before, you see. It may well have been 1979 again, with somebody in that ring standing in for Greg Valentine. Backlund also made his mark by leaving through the crowd after his elimination, for some reason, possibly to further inspire the youth of America with his academic superciliousness. Number 4, Rey Mysterio in 2018. Close to 3 years had passed since the 2006 Rumble winner left WWE, and it had been nearly 4 since he was seen inside one of Vince McMahon's rings. In the interim, Mysterio shed a ton of mass and reaffirmed his greatness in places like Lucha Underground, proving himself to be somehow ageless. The Mysterio we saw in Philly in 2018 received a warm reception as he dipped back into the familiar moveset, and it was great to see. That's because before leaving WWE, Mysterio had somehow become a bit of an afterthought. Crowds had cooled on the legendary star, booing him in some matches, such as against Bad News Barrett in April 2014. He wasn't universally reviled, but it was though Mysterio had become stale, and the stop-start tenures due to injuries really didn't help him. For WWE fans, absence made the heart grow fonder. 4 years after getting booed out of Pittsburgh for not being Daniel Bryan, Mysterio was treated as a prodigal icon by the fans on the other side of Pennsylvania. Number 3, Edge in 2010. Has it really been 10 years since the Rated R superstar made an unannounced return from injury to win the Royal Rumble? It feels like just yesterday that You Think You Know Me startled the Atlanta crowd out of their collective default state, doesn't it? It was a welcome moment for what was already shaping up to be one of the better Rumble matches in history, and Edge's moment sent it hurtling beyond the threshold of greatness. 7 months earlier, Edge ruptured his Achilles tendon at a live event, and reports were that he could be out for about 1 year. Partner Chris Jericho occasionally dragged his name through the mud in the months that followed, commenting on Edge's apparent fragility, but nobody was expecting Edge to storm the ring at the Rumble and kick Y2J's ass. Then he did, and then he won the whole thing after sending old rival John Cena to the floor. It's one thing to enter the Rumble as a shock of shocks, but something else entirely to win it while said shock is still resonating. Number 2, John Cena in 2008. This seemed destined to rule the top spot for many eons ahead. Perhaps not even a CM Punk comeback to a seismic Raw could have equaled the shock of this entry. See, with Punk, fans have been saying he'll be back for 6 years now, and him offering unfiltered opinions on the supplementary backstage show keeps him adjacent enough to WWE that fans will see something that probably isn't there. The case with Cena in 2008, however, is different because even the loudest of fans weren't anticipating his comeback. Out with a torn pectoral for 4 months prior, Cena was slated to miss 8 to 12 months in total. Nobody was expecting him to pop up in the 2008 Rumble until his music hit for the number 30 spot. Even the most jaded of Cena haters inside the Garden forgot that it was their job to boo him for 15 seasons, instead cheering out of genuine surprise for Cena's ungodly recuperative abilities. No take-backsies here, you cheered for Cena, New York. We all heard you. This isn't an ECW theme song, they're not going to dub over it on the network. Number 1, Edge in 2020. Recency bias? You could make a case for that, since this entry was cobbled together in the near immediate aftermath of Edge's grand return, a day most assumed would never come. Retired for 9 years due to serious spinal injuries, Edge's absence proved his irreplaceability. Sneaky, scheming heels with plenty of bombast have come along since, but few could match the grandiose villainy of the rated R superstar. Edge coming back, most figured, would be a miracle. Well, Al Michaels famously asked if we believe in miracles, and it seems they do exist. All you have to do is look at Edge's face when he emerges from the billowing smoke. A man who lives and breathes wrestling had been given a second chance against all odds, and over 40,000 fans made it known that they were damn glad to see him get it. He ultimately pulled himself together long enough to strike the aggressive grimace during his entrance, but the emotions we witnessed couldn't be completely shuttered. There was evident joy on the faces of some of those in this video in their own returns, but Edge's feelings ran deeper. Fans shared his sadness when he said goodbye, and also shared the sheer elation when he came home.
Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. You can follow us on Twitter at Cultaholic. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you enjoy what we do here at Cultaholic, you can pledge to us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And most importantly, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us.